Seeding Chicago is interviewing today the authors of Moral Ground, Ethical Action for a Planet in Peril. They will be at the Chicago Botanic Garden on Friday, October 29th for the Chicago Regional Forum on Ethics and Sustainability. Tell me, what compelled you to publish this book and now?
Well,
frustration.
we
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
We were scratching our heads. Why? Even scientists have done such a wonderful job of telling us about the dangers of climate change, and so little action was following. We all thought, if they only knew, then people would act. But that turns out to be simply false. And so we were saying, what's missing from this conversation? And it was clear to us that what was missing was the moral imperative, the moral affirmation of our obligations to the future. So facts alone can't get us to a statement about what we ought to do, but facts about the facts about the situation and facts about what we value, what we hope for, what we sense as our obligations together, they can impel us to act.
Okay. Michael, you want to add something?
Yeah, there's a slightly, just a little different way to think about that. I mean, Kathy and I are both philosophers, so the thing we think about most are arguments. And so another way to think about what Kathy just said is why isn't what the science is providing, why isn't it effective? And it's really just what we realize is the argument is incomplete. You can't get the conclusion to act just from the facts. So you need, we thought there's room for more argument analysis or putting forward a different kind of argument here.
Okay. I was moved by this passage in the introduction. We call people to take themselves seriously as moral agents, to reclaim the right to live the lives they believe in, to live as people of integrity, conscientious, compassionate, joyous, and so to take away the ability of the powerful to destroy the earth. But aren't the powerless also contributing to the earth's destruction by not having the power to resist what the powerful sell and market and thrust upon them?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll start. I think what's happened is the powerless sort of contribute in their, in being powerless. But what I think we have to wonder about is, well, why are they powerless? Is it the power has been taken away from us? I mean, maybe that's part of it. But I also think we give away power in various ways. So, people tell us depressing stories and we despair, and that's a kind of giving away of our power.
Mm-hmm.
Or what we do is I think sometimes this notion of just, I hope things will get better is another kind of giving away of power. So we seldom think, I don't really care about the impacts of my actions. I want to act because this is the right way to act, or this is the right thing to do. We don't often sort of think about what does it mean to be a person of moral integrity and to act because it's the right thing to do. That's a very empowering kind of thought, even. But then to actualize it is even more empowering.
The other thing I would add to that is that in the history of the United States, when there has been a rapid shift in who holds power, it's often been because of a rising wave of moral affirmation that the present situation is unjust. So the situation in the United States where the privileged among us enjoy the benefits of the profligate use of energy and products, while those who are voiceless, and particularly those in the future, or those in far continents, or those without the power to make themselves heard, they're the ones who bear the burdens of it, and it's utterly, utterly unfair. Mm-hmm. And so if that is the way that climate change is described, as this terrible injustice, rather than as popping over a 350 parts per million atmospheric composition or something like that, if it's presented as a matter of justice, then I think we could very quickly shift the locus of power in the country.
Okay. Why is protecting the planet a moral issue?
This is the question we asked all of our writers. We said, do we have an obligation to the future to leave a world as rich in possibilities as our own, and why? And they sent back all kinds of arguments and reasons. So do we have an obligation to the future? Yes, for the sake of the children. Yes, for the sake of human survival. Yes, because compassion calls us to action. Yes, because our duties of justice, and on for 14 different reasons why we have a moral obligation to protect the planet.
Here in Chicago, as in other urban areas around the country, around the globe, I might add, more people are acknowledging the imperative to take better care of the earth. And many people are growing food, buying locally, composting, and trying to reduce their carbon footprints. What more can just the individual do?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting in the book is that we have, at the end of each section, we have a little page or 2 pages of what we call ethical actions. And we actually, when this was suggested that we write these, we actually resisted this because those suggestions often end up being, they usually start with changing to compact fluorescent light bulbs, and then they go from there to drive a Prius and buy locally. And so we've seen these kind of technological fixes to our problems. But I think when you conceive of climate change and other environmental harms as a moral crisis, then in addition to doing technological actions, you're called to do different kinds of things, or you're sort of allowed to do different things. So I mean, just sort of thinking about those last sections. I mean, if it depends on what your value is. So, if I'm really committed to the value of preserving God's creation, right? That's stewardship of God's creation. And in that section, what we suggest is that if I'm in the choir, maybe my job is to make sure that the songs of creation are protected. And whatever that means, maybe my church has to be a proper sanctuary for bird song and frogs. So there's all kinds of, I think there's some more creative ways to think about this once we start thinking about it as a moral issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about happening in Chicago is exactly the sort of thing that we're calling for, where people really sit down and they seriously inquire, what is it that I value? What is it that brings me joy? And what is it that creates community? And in some ways that becomes an act of resistance against the forces that would destroy them. But it also is an act of affirmation. I'm going to the market, farmer's market, to buy this local food because that's what I believe in. And I'm not going to buy poisoned food because I think it's wrong to poison children. So we're asking people to live lives as your readers are, to live lives that they believe in. And our kind of tagline is that we offer people from Frederick Buechner, a philosopher, is to say, your calling is at the intersection of your great joy and the world's great need. Mm-hmm. The point being that there is joy in this affirmation of what we care about, and there's joy in people coming together to do work that they deeply believe is right.